Hello there. I'm assuming this is working. First time ever trying to do a live stream. Anyway, this is Creative Matthew. Pretty much that's my excuse to have a variety of different things because I like to do art, I like to do music, I like to do 3D animation, 2D animation, a variety of things. So that gives me the ability to do that. But today I'm going to show you a little bit in how I do my concept work. In this case it's going to be just a concept creature, kind of like something you'd fight in Dark Souls. So let's get started. I already have a little bit of it started right now. And I do have reference, which I forgot to put up. But artists will use reference to make sure that they have things accurate. If they're trying to do something that's just cartoonish and they know it well enough, then yes, they may not need reference. But if they're trying to make it more realistic and trying to make it accurate, they're going to use reference to make sure that they have things on par. And so if you're wondering what this is, you can kind of get an idea just from this. This is just a rough idea, trying to get it out, so I can then refine it. Right here, that's a little bit off. And so, for those of you who actually are on here, which I highly doubt anybody, because nobody really knows that I do this, especially since I just barely started. But if there is anybody there, well, welcome. Those eyes need to be moved in. This is the part where you're just trying to explore and trying to, not really explore. I already have an idea of what I want. I already have my references. This is just trying to get things accurate, rough things in, trying to get it so that you have an idea of what it's going to be like, and then you go ahead and you start doing the refined drawing, which we'll get to that when I get later. I keep making it too round. I tend to be a very roundish art style where I like doing things round. But you think, okay, you could probably start to figure out generally what this is supposed to be, but you're only seeing one part of it. This is where it gets to the kind of concept of making something new, something that you see something familiar, but now it's how do we change that to become something different. And so this part is the kind of creature monster part of it, where it's taking, in this case, taking two different things and combining them together, making something that you like kind of seen before, but you haven't, which is something that apparently they do a lot in things. It's like, oh, we want this thing to be familiar enough that the person's like, well, this is like, I know what this is. I'm not like, what in the world? But yet they also want that little, but this is like, I know what it is, but yet this is different. It's cool. It's sweet. Whether this is going to be that or not, I don't know. But it's at least an attempt at it. Yeah, it looks ugly. I think I need to do it a little differently. Maybe not focus too much on just on the actual realistic this part. I think I might just want to change it how I want. I'm trying to make it too much like an actual scorpion's claw. If you haven't figured it out, it's gonna be tiger mixed with a scorpion. I figured that'd make a kind of a cool looking monster. Let's do this thing curved. And I'm going to do a little cheat and just kind of copy it for the other side. I mean, in the industry, they'll use, like if they're making a 3D model, they'll actually use a mirror modifier, which I can show you on another video. I've actually done that whenever model because like it speeds things up quickly rather than trying to build something from like twice. You just do it once. I need to move this thing down if I'm going to have space. I'm trying to figure out kind of like how would this tiger skeleton kind of combine into, because arachnid, a scorpion has an exoskeleton, if I remember correctly. It doesn't have a internal skeleton, and so how would you mix something that has an internal skeleton with something that has an external skeleton? And I guess you could have the skull of the tiger, a little bit of spine, and then some sort of like the shoulder bones that actually maybe change into, they're not quite, they start off like just looking normal, but they get to more blocky, and then that almost like transforms into the outside of the body. I don't know. That'd be a little tough one even for a biologist to figure out. Tara Whitlatcher thing is a biologist that also does concept art. It'd be interesting to get her view on what that would be. And if you look at an actual scorpion, right near their head, they actually do have legs right underneath their head area. And so, which for this is kind of necessary, even more so than for probably the scorpion itself. And I'm not sure how much of this I'll actually do, especially since, as I said, this is my first time doing a video, so I have no clue if anybody's actually watching this. I doubt it. They might watch it later on because it'll stay on YouTube, and that's what I might I'll leave it up there. But so here's the first, like, you have the body of the scorpion. And let's see. Looking at my reference, putting this down on here. Trying to so we have part of it. Now it's like the legs. How's it going to hold itself up? I mean, you could try to put tiger legs in the back. I don't know how realistic. Like, I'm not even sure that would work. If it was mutating, the front could start being like a tiger's face and that sort of thing. You could even have the mouth connect similar, like the mouth, the digestive part actually connect in a very similar manner as the scorpion possibly, but just instead to a scorpion face, you have it to the tiger's face. But I'm not sure about the first part. This is just going to be rough, like doing rough, then trying to get something cleaned up a little bit, just a drawing, and then we'll see from there how long it takes. If it's going to, I'm not going to do this for very long. I mean, technically scorpion legs have all these different, I don't know if they're joints or what, they look like they are. If you look at them, you have like up, then another one, it's like all that. Just this part, because I can. Yeah, I might have to beef that part up. Probably wouldn't be very realistic. There's actually a YouTuber. Well, he's not really a YouTuber. He actually worked for Disney for 30 plus years. He does YouTube stuff mainly just to get, partly just because he's fun, but also just to kind of keep his name out there. Aaron Blaze. He has his own website where he actually teaches a variety of things, from art, just drawing, painting, to animation. He also has other people who have lessons on his site as well. People he's worked with in the past that he knows that they know their stuff. It's their website's creatureartteacher.com. That's the website you'd want to go to if you want to look at his lessons. If you want to purchase any lessons, he has an option for either a monthly streaming or for an actual, just you pay for a year, and you get, so anything that he's already made, you get that, as well as anything he makes for that coming year that you paid for. And if you want to continue to renew it, you continue to get that. He does it because he wants something that's actually affordable for people to actually have access to art education. I have several of his courses. I also know about Proko. I found out from him, like, actually I was looking for tutorials when I was struggling with faces and trying to get the head from different angles. So I was looking up different tutorials, and Proko's came up. And I looked at his and stuff, and it was pretty cool. But I found out from him who Aaron Blaise was, from one of his things. That's how I found out about Aaron Blaise. And let's see. I don't know if this is enough legs or not. Maybe there's, I guess we could always say that there's legs underneath, but if this thing ever went to, like, in a real work environment, you have your rough, you clean it up and stuff like that, and then to a presentable level. If it's still going to be like in a rough day, like the movie or the game company is like, hey, we just need some rough ideas right now. Rough doesn't mean, hey, we don't know what you're doing. We can't tell what this is supposed to be. Even this is probably still too rough for that. You'd want to clean up somewhat. But it means that you don't go adding all this color and details. It just means you give enough an idea that it looks like you get the cool aspect of it around. So you don't have the, okay, this still looks like a really rough piece of, like, just scribble. You don't want it to look like a really rough piece of scribble. You can have some roughness to the line work. That could make it actually kind of fun. But it has to, I know, look professional, which is kind of a hard thing to wage. How do you make it look professional and still have kind of a concept idea where it's still just this, alright, this is a concept, but it looks presentable. I guess it's like wearing t-shirt and sandals to, I don't know, business meeting, and yet having that work. So you want, and that also kind of depends on who you're with. Some people may not like that. So if you're having somebody, so you have to kind of know the company you're working for, that sort of thing. Like what, if you're doing freelance, and what do they want? If freelance, you make sure to have things very cleaned up and stuff like that. Still not like, oh, this is the finished piece. More of, this is still an idea. This is still just the general concept to see if this is even what we want to do. If you're in-house, then you have an art director, and your art director knows art. At least they should. And so they're more likely to know, okay, this is going to be good, or you know what, this isn't even worth continuing. Let's change this. You want to change this or that. So there's a fine line between like too much for just a concept piece and not enough. Anyway, and like with your concept, whatever you're going to do, I mean, the key is like, well, just think about the games you've played. What really awed you? What made you think, oh, this is super cool? I mean, for me, when I was young, one of the early games was Doom. And I mean, nowadays you look at it, it's like so old school, but remember, this is back in the, like, when it came out. I mean, I was fairly young, so, but my brother was always playing it and stuff like that, and I thought it was really cool. And actually, when art inspiration came to me, not from that though. I always wanted to do art because of my mom probably having me watch Bob Ross. Like, instead of putting like Sesame Street on, she'd turn on Bob Ross, partly because I would sit there and watch it for I don't know how long, because like I just thought it was so cool. And that got me wanting to do art. So I took what art classes I could in junior high and high school. Never did college, too expensive. But I did do stuff like from Aaron Blaze's thing, as well as looking when I looked at Proko and other things. There's different things you can get where you can learn things. Because I mean, I've learned a lot on my own, but there's stuff that you need some more direction, either from a book or tutorial. There are free tutorials. There's pay tutorials. But there's lots of different ways to learn nowadays. And so you really want to take advantage of that. If anybody is watching, it'd be interesting to know. I don't think I have the chat on, so, but I'll find out later. Make sure my lines match up. That's where you can actually paint through. Not really trying to do too much detail with the legs. As I said, this is still just a general idea. This isn't like, okay, this is definitely what we're going to go with, or what I'm going to go with. I started making my own games using Unity. Then my computer tried to eat my files, and plus I looked at Unreal. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. They're both really good products. And they both have a nice little system set up where it's like you can use it for free, but there's a system, like I know Unity was or still is, where if you make over a certain amount of money, then you pay per developer. It might still be that way. I might have changed. I don't know. And Unreal has, I don't remember Unreal's how they do it, but it's something I think similar if I remember correctly. But they make it so that anybody can actually get their ideas out and actually get a plan and get something actually created, which is really cool. I mean, it used to be that you could only major companies could do that. Nowadays, lots of people can actually get stuff out. They can get their product out, and not everything's great. Some they probably should put some more effort, or maybe do some more learning online before they try to put it out. But it doesn't really, I don't know, I guess maybe it's debatable whether it can hurt things or not. But at least it lets people's creativity come out. Their ideas that they can actually get, at least in a rough form, in some form of a kind of game. Even if it's just to see what it would visually look like. And I'm not really caring too much about the legs, as this is just a rough idea. I just want to get it to where at least somewhat looks presentable. That looks done. Yeah, that looks too straight. I like that little curved part of it. Maybe I should go down. I think, let's see. Yeah. It goes like this. And I'll do that. Anyway, I'm curious if people are watching this, or if they ever come across it. What do they do? I know, like work-wise, my first official job was actually as an iPhone developer. I was doing the development for things, but I found that, especially when you're the only developer in a small company, anytime there's a bug or problem, you have to try to fix it, and that could be a pain. So I actually went into QA where I started testing the software. The nice part about QA is you can still get paid the same if you go into automation, which means that you're actually creating code to go through the program. I'm not sure how well it works with. I know there is automation within the gaming type thing. Never actually used it, but I know with like websites and stuff like that, it makes sense to have automation for like, I mean, just going through the website and testing the basic things, making sure the links are working, making sure this goes to this and this goes to that. And you still get to use code and that sort of thing. I still enjoy coding, but I enjoy doing it more for my own projects. For company-wise, I'd much rather do art. I'd much rather help them with the ideas and come up with that thing, or even just do like illustration type paintings for them. Let's see. And this is still rough. I mean, this is not like accurate. This isn't going to be, I mean, even the perspective is probably not quite accurate in all reality, but this is just to get an idea. I'm sure it's not accurate actually, but this is just to get a general idea of what this might look like, and to be at least presentable enough that the company like, okay, that looks cool, or okay, we like the idea where you're going, but we don't necessarily want the tiger, or we don't want the scorpion, or it just depends on what the company, or maybe they're like, you know, I like the idea, but can you try to add in maybe a skull or a skeleton, or you're just trying to give them ideas. You're trying to create, just give them like, okay, here's what we want, or here's what we don't want. And a lot of times they don't, like for within a concept piece, they don't necessarily know what they want or don't want. They need ideas to be presented to them, and then from there you work things out to either change this or change that. And let's see. I don't know if I want to. So this is still rough, but I don't know if it looks a little too rough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and erase the bottom part of the mouth. And since this is just a general concept, I don't have to make it accurate. This is supposed to be just an idea of maybe some sort of creature or monster, and you might want to change things. You might want to add bigger teeth, or they might want to add bigger teeth, or they might want you to add an extra head. I mean, it's an idea, and especially with this where it's more of a creature. This is based upon something real, but this itself is not real. There's no tiger scorpion mix in the real world, and if there is, that'd be one creepy looking thing. Imagine seeing that. I don't think, even if it was small, like a scorpion size, I mean, if it was tiger size, if it was tiger size, it'd be really freaky. But even if it was scorpion size, you'd still be pretty freaked out. Like, what in the? Then you'd be wondering what the government was doing and what experiments were happening. At least that's what all the games seem to do. It's like an experiment, or like it's some portal opened, or it's a little bit better. Good enough, at least for this. As I said, this is just a general idea. This thing's not. Not really any indication of a neck. So let's see, how long has this been going on? 24 minutes. I don't know if I want to. Let's see. So the way I like to try to shade things in, some people will just paint it in like you're painting in a coloring book, but I found it's usually, for me at least, a little quicker just to go in and like wherever, like when I do the select tool on the outside, wherever it's still going into the thing, just quickly look. Usually you can see where it's not connecting pretty quickly, quicker than trying to do the other thing. At least in my opinion, that's what I find. And that part's not right. That needs to come out. That's right there. Let's see. Which also means I think I copied that thing. Then again, I don't think, no, I didn't copy it for the actual cleanup version. Or, it's still technically rough. It's not really that cleaned up, but it's cleaned up enough for what I need it for. Technically, if you're, oh, that arm still needs to be filled in. I mean, if you wanted to, you could sculpt this digitally. I mean, nowadays they don't do it really traditionally, which some companies might still do, have you do traditional sculpts, but in reality most of them are going to have you do it digitally. And you can do that. I mean, there's programs, standard programs they use, but even Blender, which is a free 3D program, 3D, you can also do 2D animation in it. It's completely free, and you can do, there's a tangent, and you can do sculpting in it. You can also just model this. I'm not sure how many people actually just go straight to modeling it. If they're doing it themselves, I mean, they already know what it's supposed to look like. They already know the idea in their head. So in that case, they might just go straight to modeling it. You think, what's the difference? Sculpting is more like, you're literally just like, kind of like thinking of digital clay. You're moving around and stuff like that. You're not thinking about topology or about how you're going to rig this or that sort of thing. You're trying to get the idea of the creature out inside a 3D form. And when you get that creature out in 3D form, then after that, so you have the creature out in 3D form stuff, then you can think about, okay, now we need to retopologize. Though I think nowadays they might have software that actually kind of does the retopology for you. And if you're wondering what is topology, so you have a three-dimensional object. Like, take a cardboard box. You take your cardboard box, it is 3 dimensions. Well, if you take it and you flatten it out, so you take, you undo all the different seams, stuff like that, and you flatten it out, you now have these 2-dimensional shapes, squares. Well, when you put it back together as a box, these two-dimensional shapes are creating that 3-dimensional object. For a creature, character, whatever it might be, and when you're making it in 3D models, you're using 2-dimensional shapes to form that. You have those 2-dimensional shapes that go around this, and usually they're polygons. You don't, like, there's a thing about triangles and trying to avoid triangles and all that stuff, but we won't get into that here. But that's, topology is how you have those 3D, how the 2D objects are moved around that 3D form. And what does that matter? It can affect look. Like, in fact, I'll actually give you an example. Let's see. That's not what. Just do this. Go to Blender. Go to my snake and duck. These are some things I modeled. The duck I just recently did. I have an older version of the duck, but as I said, my computer kind of ate some of my files, and so I don't have that duck model anymore. I have the design. I mean, I didn't really write it out. I just made it basic, but like this duck, if you can see right here within that neck, that's not the best topology. That's not good topology. You notice all these squares. These are 2-dimensional shapes formed around into a 3-dimensional object. That's topology. In this case, that's not good topology. But this is just the idea that I was trying to do, and I'm not even sure if I like it. I liked my old design better, so I might do a completely different one with the old design. Plus, I'm not sure how to do the wings very well. That was the problem with the old design. The design was nice, but in animating it, the wings just, like, did not animate very well at all. And it's like, I want to keep some dimension to the wings. I don't want them just to be a two-dimensional plane. And what that means is, like, you see this wing, you can actually see a little bit of depth to it. And that makes it more like almost like a squished box, but it's still more like a box. There is something called just a plane that you can add. So add mesh plane. And you can see the plane doesn't have that dimension. It just has pretty much an X and Y, or in this case it's going to be a little different because it's positioned, but if we rotate it, well, rotate it X 90, and we look at it straight on, here, you have X, you have Y. Though in Blender it's a little different. Just pretend this is X and this is Y like it normally would be. You have X and Y with this three-dimensional plane, but you don't have any depth at all. It's supposed to be like paper, like less than paper thin. So, and this is the two-dimensional object that you see throughout this, creating a three-dimensional shape. And you can do that here. I already have I can take this and I can now start to extrude this out. I can take this, extrude it out, and I can start making something that's three dimensions. That's a little sidetrack. Let's see, how long has this been going on? 31 minutes. I think for now I'll leave it at, I don't know, I kind of want to get at least just a base color in. Nope. Okay, at this point it probably would be faster just to paint it in. Oh well. Though part of that is just because I got sidetracked. Talking about topology and 3D modeling and stuff. But anyway, but on that note, like, that's why like sculpting is like, if you're just trying to get an idea, you just like kind of like this. You're just trying to get an idea to the person in charge or whoever you're presenting it to, and it's just like, here's a rough idea of what this might look like. You don't really want to have to take the time to do the topology. You want to just get something done. And so in that case, you just sculpt it. You just focus on just getting the sculpt out, and maybe not even adding too many details for the moment. Just getting enough stuff in there that the person can say, okay, I know what this is supposed to be. Damn, don't like it, or you know what? I like the general idea, but let's take this a step further. So that's kind of like what you're going to be getting. Yeah, it's a little too dark. Do this. If people start watching this and like they actually want to know kind of more what I'm doing, I'll let them know. But right now this is really me just trying to showing people, here's an idea of here's my process and like my idea behind doing a concept piece. In this case, a creature type character that you're going to actually fight in a game. Let's make this bigger. Right now I'm just trying to give a little bit of dimension to it. I'm not going to finish this on this stream. Just going to do a little bit more. Now, I mean, this is a little funky with it going like that, but one thing like concept artists will do is if they're doing two sides of something, they'll actually, like one side they'll make really detailed, and the other side they'll just kind of fake the detail, because it's like you already should know what you already can see the detail on one side, and you know it's a mirror image of the other one. And as I said, when it comes to actual modeling and even sculpting, you have something called a mirror modifier, where you can literally just put the mirror modifier on the eye. You can like turn on the mirror modifier, and when you sculpt one side, it automatically creates the same thing you're doing on the other side. And so you don't really need to go. I said concept art is about trying to get things done in a quick fashion so that they can get the ideas out, so they can actually get going with the product, because they don't make money until the product's actually out. I'm naming my layers. I mean, it's always good to name your layers and to make sure you keep track of them. So, and I'm a little bit paranoid. I don't like it if I don't have them. I prefer my layers always named and organized. This is me just filling in this because it didn't fill in before because the line wasn't quite done. So yeah. And this way I can just select that on that note list and then just start painting again. But I think this is gone long enough. I'm just not ranting, but I'm just, I don't know, rambling on. So I think I'm gonna end the stream. If any of you actually, if people start subscribing and that sort of thing, I'll do more of this. I'll probably still do more of this just for my own sake, but I'm just gonna get ideas out there and to show people. But if it gets more popular, I'll definitely come out. But this is mainly me trying to show here's my process, and also trying to get my name out there to different companies to show, hey, I can do the work. Not only that, but I have a passion for this that I've had since I was little, and that passion you cannot teach, but the skills and other things you can. So go ahead and end this stream. This is Creative Matthew, and I guess I can say signing off. Let's see. So if my mouse would cooperate.